What's good? What's good, everyone? Welcome back to the show, man. Recap with Mo, where we getting ready to get into a little bit of dialogue. And yes, I said a little bit of dialogue about Tyler Perry's Zatima, all right? But before we get into this thing, make sure to like and subscribe to this channel so you don't miss shit that's going down, all right? So let's go ahead and talk about it. So in the previous episode, I believe the title of it was A Gamble at Love. We saw Brother Zach and we saw Sister Fatima together for the first time in one setting due to the fact that her father, and for the sake of this video, I'm not going to title him as a stepfather because he's been in her life since, I believe, the age of 8. So for all purposes, I'm going to say her father and her mom has welcomed them to their crib. Now, they welcomed them to their house because they wanted to sort everything out, apologize to Zach for the way that they responded, specifically the mother, and the father-in-law, the soon-to-be father-in-law, as he told Zach, listen, he understands Zach, all right? He was a judge, obviously, for many years. He actually has worked with Fatima's mom, we found out, who was part of the streets. She was in those streets or whatnot. So he worked with her as well. So obviously he has a mindset of seeing the good in people, and obviously he saw something good in Zach. Now, me personally, I don't necessarily know or believe that Zach and Fatima are great for one another just because of what they are bringing to the table. Yes, they are great physically, in bed or whatnot, but that does not sustain a relationship or a marriage. The sex can be on fire, it can be the bomb, but it does not sustain you. At the same time, you need to be able to communicate with one another. You need to be able to be there emotionally when that person is not willing to give you all of them at that point in time in their lives and all of this stuff like that. So it's a big thing to jump into, this relationship, into these marriages that they're trying to jump into. And I think it was a great thing, and I'm just talking about it. I think and believe that it was a great thing that her father and her mom brought them to the table to let them see what real marriage looks like. Like, he's telling them, like, hey, your mom went out there in those streets. She ended up cheating on me. And Fatima couldn't believe it because these are things that she's never heard from her mom's mouth. But her father is telling her, look, even through all of that, Fatima, I was able to forgive your mom, but at the same time, I went out there and I did what I did as well. So it's just not putting the blame on her mom, but it's also showing that, hey, I wasn't perfect in any of this as well. Like, I did my dirt as well. And what is showing Fatima, both Fatima and Zach, is that you both are going to be imperfect in this relationship. Both of y'all are going to bring some to this relationship. And quite frankly, it doesn't matter how good your life was or how effed up your life was. Both of y'all got something to bring to the table, and it doesn't necessarily have to be negative or positive, but everybody is bringing something to the table. And I was glad, as I stated in my recap video, if you have yet to see that, go back and look at it. But I was glad to see them actually have these conversations because I believe that social media has actually caused an issue within our society where a lot of people are feeling isolated, or they feel alone, deserted. But oftentimes people just go away into their own little areas and they don't communicate with one another unless it's through their fingertips. No one is opening up their mouths anymore to convey a message to someone eye to eye. You see what I'm saying? There's an absolute difference in actually talking to someone, seeing their body language, and actually getting their honest opinions about stuff. Now, they can lie to you face to face. I know people can lie to you face to face because I've done it my damn self, all right? But at the same token, you can see that. Oftentimes, if you're able to read people's body language and their energy, you can tell if they lying or not. But at the same time, getting back on task here, I thought it was an absolute great thing that her father and her mother was able to apologize to Zach, destroy that wall that they had placed up initially, And like I stated before in my previous video, when Zach was able to leave from that house, instead of calling him what he was calling him initially by his first name, he called him by his last name and put Mr. in the front of it. What that showed me is that Zach is now showing and giving respect to a man that he currently can respect. But respect only comes to those when we allow them to see the vulnerability at some point. Like, we didn't have it all together. My parents didn't have it all together. My great-grand, you see what I'm saying? And at some point, we have to share that. You see what I'm saying? And I just shared something with my son previously, well, yesterday actually, about something that I did. And he was like, you did that? And then he was like, well, how did you respond? And I told him how I responded. And he was like, okay, well, that was wrong. And I was like, exactly, son. I don't want you to do that. And that's what we have to do as parents. That's what we have to do as spouses. That's what we have to do, period. It's just talk to people and deal with our bullshit and get it over with. Sometimes it's harder than that. But if we could sit down, like they stated in this episode, if there's effort there, then we can get through this potentially if we put in the work. All right? Put in the work. Yeah, put in the work. That's what we got to do, all right? But anyhow, I'm going to leave y'all on that note because I didn't want to get too deep into this thing, but I did want to get that off before we get ready for this week's episode. I believe episode number 17 is titled Energy Shift, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later on, but I think that they need to get back to a good place where they can just talk. Because as Brother Paul was stating, and no, I'm not talking about Brother Paul in the Bible, I'm talking about brother with the sprayed on hairline. I'm talking about that brother. He told Zach the truth. Like, hey, if you don't do it, I'm going to be right back in this position. And I'm going to win her over this time because you're going to mess up to the point where she ain't going to want to be with you no more. All right. So anyhow, I'm going to leave y'all on that note. Let me know your thoughts down below. I'll talk to y'all soon. Peace.